Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, and today we are continuing October's theme of awesome Halloween-ish movies. Dun dun. So, for the folks who haven't been paying attention, or if you've just joined us, the first 2 weeks of the month, we watched The Frighteners, which is the very first week. Last week, we watched Lord of Illusions, and this week we are talking, well, we watched and we're talking about The Lost Boys, as it's referred to on Wikipedia at least, the 1987 American teen black comedy horror film directed by Joel Schumacher, produced by Harvey Bernard, executive produced by Richard Donner, with a screenplay written by Jeffrey Boehm, but the original story was written by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias, I believe is how you say his name. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail here in a second. Where first we're going to go over, who made it. So, like I said, the movie was directed by Joel Schumacher. Joel Schumacher has a bunch of really good credits on his early career, then a bunch of not so great movies after that, and a few arguably better ones in there. So he actually started his career off as a writer. He wrote, I should say, he started his career off as a writer. He started his career off in TV film and then became a writer on said films as well as a couple movies. Those movies were Sparkle, Car Wash, and of course The Wiz. All fantastic movies. I don't remember Sparkle too much, but I do remember Car Wash with George Carlin in it, and The Wiz, Michael Jackson's and Diana Ross's version of The Wizard of Oz. But then his career of directing, he had The Incredible Shrinking Woman, DC Cab, also known as Street Fleet, St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, Cousins, Flatliners, Dying Young, Falling Down, great movie, The Client, great movie, not so great movie, Batman Forever, A Time to Kill, which was a good movie with Matthew McConaughey, and who else is in that one? Sandra Bullock, and I believe Samuel Jackson. Anyhow, and then he did Batman and Robin, another terrible movie. He did 8mm, which I actually like a lot, but people hate. And then went on to do a couple other things that don't really have any good merit out of them. Well, except for the number 23, I will stand by and say that's actually a really fun movie. He did Blood Creek too. I forgot about that one. That's actually a good one too. He did have a couple better ones in his later career. Oh, Tigerland, Gossip. Well, he executive produced Gossip. Bad Company with Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins. But anyways, that's Joel Schumacher, Joe's favorite Batman director, because he put neon lights on the Batmobile. Next up, producer or writer of the actual screenplay, Jeffrey Boehm. Jeffrey Boehm had a pretty spectacular early career, if you ask me. So he started with Straight Time, 1978 movie with Dustin Hoffman and Gary Busey and a couple other people in that one. You had The Dead Zone, which is a really good adaptation of Stephen King book. Is the movie, not the television program, with Michael C. Hall or Michael Hall. Michael C. Hall's from Dexter. Michael Hall is from Dead Zone and early other movies. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's the movie with Christopher Walken. Then he did one of my favorite sci-fi comedies ever, Inner Space, with Martin Short and what is his name? Dennis Quaid. It was directed by Joe Dante, produced by Steven Spielberg, who also served as executive producer on that too, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have The Lost Boys, which he wrote based on a story by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias. Then you have Funny Farm, featuring Chevy Chase, really funny movie. You had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is a really good movie as well. He wrote that one. He wrote Lethal Weapon 2. He wrote Lethal Weapon 3 with Robert Mark Kamen. The Witches of Eastwick, which he wrote with Carlton Cruise, who also we worked on with on television program called The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., and then he did an episode of The Tales from the Crypt, episode 61, called Creep Course, which he also directed. And then, of course, one of my favorite superhero movies, The Phantom from 1996, was his last credible work that he wrote on, and he died a few years later in 2000, unfortunately. Anyways, that's Jeffrey Boehm. Next up, producer Harvey Bernhard. He has a shortish career. Highlights are a shit ton of Omen movies. He produced and he screenwrote one of them, I guess. But he was also producer of Lady Hawk and The Goonies, as well as Lost Boys, which leads us to how he got to the Lost Boys, because Lady Hawk and, of course, The Goonies being movies made by Richard Donner, who I'll get to in a second. Later on, he did Omen 4: The Awakening, which is a TV movie. He also did the screenwriter on that one. Everything after Damien Omen 2, I'm pretty sure, are all terrible. But it's been a long time since I watched them, so I could be wrong about even Omen. Anyhow, that is Harvey Bernhard, producer and screenwriter of some things. Next up, Richard Donner. Richard Donner executive produced The Lost Boys. Originally signed on to direct Lost Boys, but he could not fulfill it because he had other obligations. One, which was Lethal Weapon. Obviously, a much better choice for him. Scrooged was right after that as well. And, of course, Lethal Weapon 2 shortly after that as well. But Lethal Weapon was what he essentially already had set to do, and then moved on to that instead of Lost Boys, but did executive produce Lost Boys along with Joel Schumacher and everybody there. So for people who don't know Richard Donner, most notably, he did direct The Omen, which is where he got in league with Bernhard. But and I want to say The Omen was good, but it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't remember. I do know it's the one where the nurse lady hangs herself for Damien at his birthday party from the really tall building, which is iconically put in different things, even to Family Guy. So, whatever. That's the thing. So, other than that, most notably, he's known for directing Superman and the director's cut of Superman 2. He was uncredited as the theatrical release of Superman 2. But if you get a chance to watch the Donner cut of Superman 2, it's actually a much better movie than Superman 2, the theatrical version. Then he did Inside Moves that had... is that the one with Kenny Rogers in it? Not Kenny Rogers. Who's in this one? I can't remember this one very well. It's not Kenny Rogers. Who's in this one? John Savage. I always thought the picture looks like Kenny Rogers. Anyways, I don't remember that movie very well, but he did that one. Then he did one of my favorite movies featuring Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason, I guess, which is The Toy. Fantastic movie. And when I do my Richard Pryor movies, which I'll do eventually one of these times, this will be definitely one of them. I'll talk about that. Then he did The Goonies, which he also produced. Lady Hawk, which he produced and directed, and then got nominated for a Hugo Award and won in a science fiction something or other award for too. Something like World. Here it is. Best Dramatic Presentation category in the World Science Fiction Society. He won for Superman, nominated for it, and for Lady Hawk. Also, Best Director for Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. He got nominated for Superman as well. Then after that, after Lady Hawk, like I said, he did Lethal Weapon 1. He did Scrooged, which is I've talked about on here before because it's a fantastic Christmas movie and one of my favorite movies starring Bill Murray. He then did Lethal Weapon 2. He did Radio Flyer, Lethal Weapon 3, Maverick, the movie Assassins with Sylvester Stallone, which I do not like. He did Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts. Right? Is it Mel Gibson in that one? Yeah, I believe it is Mel Gibson in that one. Then he did Lethal Weapon 4. Then he did Timeline, unfortunately, which was not a good movie. It was based on a book by Michael Crichton. Then he had 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis and Mos Def, who goes by a different name now, and I can't think of what it is. I could probably look it up, but I can't remember what. I don't remember. And then he has a listing for something called Lethal. So Lethal Finale, which is supposed to be the next Lethal Weapon movie or something like that. I don't remember. I didn't look it up. But I saw that listed and I was like, I don't know what that actually is. But I do believe it's in the Lethal Weapon world. I just don't know what actually it is. But anyways, that don't matter. We ain't talking about that. One day I will talk about Lethal Weapon movies, though. I'll probably do like a bunch of movies that are have lots of good sequels or something. I don't know yet. But yeah, that's Richard Donner. He's pretty rad. Executive produced a bunch of stuff, including some of the X-Men movies, Any Given Sunday, the Free Willy movies, Delirious, as well as the Tales from the Crypt movies, both Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood, and then did a bunch of TV programs I'm not going to list because there's a lot of them. Early 70s stuff, too. Next up, we'll go over the cast real quick. So the cast starts off with Jason Patric, who plays Michael Emerson. He's done a lot of things. One of my favorite things he plays in is The Losers, which I believe I've talked about on here, which is a movies not many people know are based on comic books, I think is what the theme of that one was. He played Max in that. He was in Sleepers. He was in a movie called Narc, which is fantastic. He was in let's see, The Alamo, which I don't remember if I like that movie or not. My Sister's Keeper, which is a funny movie to bring up, but it's actually a really good movie with Cameron Diaz and what is her name? Abigail Breslin? Yeah, Abigail Breslin. So that's a good one. He was in... no, I think it's really all the good ones. And then it started going to like direct-to-DVD movies and shit. Television-wise, hasn't had a lot of roles. He had, he showed up as himself on Entourage. He was on the show Wayward Pines as Dr. Theo Yeldon. Yeah, that's Jason Patric. Good times. Oh, he was in Speed 2, Cruise Control, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know why I'm apologizing for him, but don't watch that movie because it's pretty terrible. Anyhow, next up is Corey Haim. Corey Haim plays Michael's brother, Sam Emerson. Is the second lead of the movie. This was not one of his first movies. He had several before that. But Corey Haim, unfortunately, did die early age. But his movie career early on was pretty spectacular, and he did a few movies with his buddy Corey Feldman, who I'll talk about a little bit because he's in this movie as well. But he did... Silver Bullet, Lucas, obviously Lost Boys, License to Drive, Watchers, Dream a Little Dream, Prayer for the Roller Boys is a good movie. Then he did which other ones are a big one for him? They did a sequel to Dream a Little Dream? How the fuck does that work? Oh, whatever, I don't know. Then later in life, he did some other stuff. He was in Crank High Voltage, which is the second Crank movie, which, by the way, I'm going to do those movies one day because those movies are fucking fantastic and I love them so much. He did play himself in Dickie Roberts' former child star, which was a parody-ish movie featuring David Spade. But yeah, that's about really it for movie-wise. TV show, he did the Edison Twins for 26 episodes. That was a show that was on in Canada, which is, I believe, was picked up by Disney later on in the 80s. As 6 seasons were produced for a while. That's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of seasons of that show. And then nothing else real big. The Two Corys, which is they did a reality show together, and then of course he did a voice of himself in Robot Chicken, which is pretty dope. But yeah, that's Corey Haim. Next up won't be Corey Feldman. Next up will actually going to be Kiefer Sutherland, who plays David, the main antagonist in this movie. Kiefer Sutherland, I mean, he's been in, Stand By Me, Promised Land, obviously Lost Boy, Killing Time, Young Guns 2. He was in Flatliners. He was in what is that? He was in Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, which is the movie from the television show Twin Peaks. He was in Three Musketeers as Athos, Cowboy Way, A Time to Kill, which I mentioned earlier. He was in Dark City, which again one of these days I'm gonna talk about because I love that movie. Let's see what else other big ones. Phone Booth, which not a big fan of, but actually it wasn't actually bad. It was produced by actually, is that one bad? Because the Joel Schumacher one, I want to say that one was not great. Colin Farrell, yeah, I don't know if I remember that that one or not. I always mix Phone Booth up and is it called The Call? I can't remember. But anyways, I don't think I like that movie. I'm not going back and watch it, but I don't think I liked it. And then he was in a handful of movies that nobody really cared about. He actually played in the newer Flatliners, which is pretty cool. Because obviously it was sort of kind of a remake. It was. I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't play the same character, but it was kind of like a modern adaptation of whatever. But anyways, he was in that as a small role, kind of like a cameo in a way. Television wise, well, he was in 24 for like forever, which was he did 192 episodes of, won a bunch of stuff, nominated for a bunch of other stuff. He was producer on it, or executive producer on it. Played Jack Bauer, if you don't know. Then he came back in 2008 and played Jack Bauer in the film 24 Redemption, which was the reason they went back to doing. I can't remember what it was, but anyways, then he was back again as Jack Bauer in 12 episodes in 2014 and 24 Live Another Day, which he also executive produced and got nominated and won some stuff for that too. And then most recently, he was in Designated Survivor, which I want to say was on regular TV and then moved to like a streaming service or something, but he was in that for 53 episodes. And then most recently, he is Detective Clay Bryce in the Fugitive television program that I believe is on Quibi. Yes, Quibi. Which is based on the 1963 television program, The Fugitive, which also spawned 2 movies, The Fugitive with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, and U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes. Boom. And he did voices in video games, including the 24 game and a bunch of Call of Duty games where he played Robeck and something else. Oh, I didn't know he was in Black Ops 4 as Gideon Jones. That's pretty cool. And Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, and Phantom Pain, which are the last 2 Metal Gear games. Well, Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain is the actual main game. but he did the voice of Snake and Big Boss in those ones. But anyways, that's Kiefer Sutherland. Next up, we have Diane Weist, I think is how you pronounce this. She plays Lucy Emerson, the mother of Sam and Michael Emerson. She has a pretty long career. I gotta wrap this up because I'm going way too long. I haven't talked about the movie yet. But she was in Practical Magic. She was in Robots. She did the voice only in that one. Passengers. She was in Footloose, Falling in Love, Cookie, Parenthood, Little Man Tate, Bullets Over Broadway, Cops and Robertsons, The Scout, The Associate, she was in Birdcage, or The Birdcage, like I said, Practical Magic, Horse Whisperer. She was in, let's see, most recently, movies I don't think I've ever heard of before. Television-wise, she was on Law & Order for 46 episodes. Well, she was on Law & Order, the original one, as D.A. Nora Lewin in 48 episodes. Then she reprised the role of D.A. Nora Lewin in one episode of Criminal Intent and 2 episodes of Special Victims Unit. And then she was also in The Treatment as Dr. Gina Toll, which was an HBO drama in 2008 and 9. Oh, she's in Life in Pieces. I forgot about that. She plays the mom, Joan Short, in Life in Pieces. I forgot about that. That show's actually really funny. You should check it out. It's on ABC? CBS. I'm bad. My bad. CBS. It has a really good cast in that one, too. That's Diane Weist, I believe is how you say her name. Next up, Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman, most of be known for The Goonies, Stand By Me, The Lost Boys, License to Drive, The Burbs, Dream a Little Dream. I don't know if he was in the second one because I don't remember I didn't even know there was a thing. And I don't know if I see it quickly. Doesn't matter. He was a ghost in the first one, so I'm not too sure how he made it back to the second one. He played the voice of Donatello in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie in 1990. And then from there, he did some really terrible fucking movies. A lot of them, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, which is not the actual title, but it is real bad. Oh, he was in Dream a Little Dream, too. Look at that, 1995 as Bobby Keller, the same role he played in the first one. Interesting. I'll have to look that one up and see what it is. I'm not going to watch it, because, yuck. But he's also in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, and Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, which is weird because he was in the final chapter, but he was also in the sequel to that, which makes no sense because he shouldn't be in that. Anyhow, that's Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman, everybody. Next up, Jameson Newlander. Jameson Newlander in Lost Boys plays Alan Frog, who's the brother of Corey Feldman's character, who I forgot to mention is Edgar Frog, the Frog Brothers. He also was in the sequels, which I didn't mention earlier, but they did sequels and they were terrible as far as I know. I didn't ever watch them because they looked real bad. But he was in The Blob, which is a fantastic movie from 1988, which is a remake of The Blob from 1958 or 1960 something. I don't remember what it was. And then he was in Bone Tomahawk, which I did not know until I was doing research for this. I love Bone Tomahawk. Movie is fucked up, but he plays the mayor in that. I don't even know if I could recognize him in that. But yeah, that is Jameson Newlander. Not a big career, but he is definitely in it. Next up, Jamie Gertz. Jamie Gertz has done a lot of movies. Not a lot of movies, but she's been in a bunch of stuff. She is most notably from, to me, most notably she was in Quicksilver with my boy Kevin Bacon. Bicycle Messenger movie. She was in 16 Candles. She was in Alphabet City, Crossroads, obviously Lost Boys, Less Than Zero. She was in Jersey Girl, which she was in that. She was in Twister. She was one of the doctors in Twister. That's a good one. And then some other stuff, TV-wise, she was on like 12 episodes of Seinfeld. No, not 12 episodes. She was in one episode of Seinfeld. She was on like 6 or 7 episodes of ER. Sorry, I messed up my facts there. She was on Facts of Life, so that's pretty cool. She was on like 4 episodes of that. She was in Entourage for like 5 or 6 episodes. A couple TV movies, Undercover Christmas. Anybody? No? 20 episodes of Square Pegs. Dreams. Different Strokes. She was on an episode of that. Yeah. Oh, she was 6 episodes of Ally McBeal. With Ally McBeal, the one with the dancing CG baby for whatever reason. I don't remember why there was a dancing baby on that. Then up next is Edward Herrmann. Edward Herrmann plays Max in this movie. He is, spoiler alert, he's the main bad guy in it, but you don't know he is because they switcheroo it on you. Anyhow, he's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, so many things. Double Take, Nixon. He was Rich's dad in Richie Rich, the Macaulay Culkin one. Wow, Macaulay Culkin version of it. Not that piece of shit Netflix show they did. He was in The Purple Rose of Cairo. Obviously, he was in that one as well. He's been in. He was in Death Valley. It's been a lot of different movies. Emperor's Club, Welcome to Mooseport, which is a really funny movie. Some other ones, yeah. Television-wise, did a lot of television movies. He was on Beacon Hill as Richard Palmer for 11 episodes in 1975. No idea what that actually is, but it's a television program he's on a bunch. He was on 10 episodes of The Practice, which used to be called Something Else, or was Something Else, or then turned Boston Legal is what it was, right? Yeah, it was Boston Legal, then it turned into The Practice, or is that the other way around? Was it The Practice first, then it was Boston Legal? I don't remember. But he was on that. He was on 86 episodes of Gilmore Girls. He played Richard Gilmore, of course. Jesus. Not that I ever really watched Gilmore Girls religiously, but I do remember watching some of it, and he was in that. Played the grandpa? It wasn't the dad, right? He was the grandpa, wasn't he? Yeah, the grandpa. Rory's grandpa. I just showed the fact that I watched the show more often than I thought I did. And then yeah, a bunch of other stuff. Still doing, well, not still doing work. He died in 2014, but he was still doing work up to that point. So you know, he did a bunch of voice work too. In the hold on, I had it here. I don't know what I did the page. I closed it by accident. But he did a bunch of like voiceover stuff for commercials and a couple audiobooks and like docu-series or something. There was one I thought was a big one and I don't know where it's at. It doesn't matter now. I fucked it up. And then last but not least, of course, is Grandpa in the movie. His name is Grandpa in the movie. Bernard Hughes. Bernard Hughes, to me, will and always be from Doc Hollywood because I love that movie. And everyone should love that movie because it's fantastic. But he plays Dr. Arliss Hogue, who is the old doctor before Michael J. Fox comes into town and wrecks the fence and gets ordered to be the town doctor because Hogue is getting a little old in life and getting ready to, not be there anymore. But other than that, he's been in a lot of other stuff. He played Grandpa in Lost Boys. He was in Oh God, which is a really funny movie. He was in Rage, Pursuit of Happiness, the original, not the Will Smith one. He was in Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, The Creator Will Rock, which is a weirdly Disney movie, but whatever. But yeah, so that's Bernard Hughes plays Grandpa. So real quick, the movie itself is about vampires, set in the 80s, of course, because all good vampire movies were. It was originally written for as a story about young vampires. That was when it was originally written by, or the original story written by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias. That script was bought for $400,000, and then it was attached to a film company called Producers Sales Organization, or PSO, who worked with Warner Brothers for domestic release of it, as well as some foreign stuff. But the original story was actually about young vampires, and around the 13 or 14-year-old range. It was supposed to be a la The Goonies. That's why Richard Donner was actually brought into the project, or was set to direct it, and then, of course, obligations and mixed up with, or not mixed up, but having scheduling conflicts with it. It moved over to being directed by Joel Schumacher, who then brought in his boy, Baum. Is it Baum or Baum? I'm not too sure. Jeffrey Baum to come in. He retooled the script to make it more sexier and more adult. So basically, in the original film, envisioned more of a juvenile vampire adventures with 13 or 14-year-old vampires, while the Frog Brothers were chubby 8-year-old Cub Scouts that were going to be fighting the vampires. And then when Donner had to step away due to other projects, Joel Schumacher came, like I said, brought in Jeffrey Baum, whatever, to retool the script and wanted to make it more sexy and more adult. And we get the movie we have now, which is called The Lost Boys. Lost Boys, of course, is a reference to the kids in Peter Pan who never grow old, hence the reason that way. Also, it would have worked with the younger kids because in Peter Pan, they were younger. They weren't in their... we'll say early 20s. I don't know how old they were supposed to be. I mean, Michael is still living at home, but I don't know if that's because he's a loser or what. But I'll tell you right now, Michael, David, Alex Winter's character, I'm spacing on the name. Alex Winter, by the way, I forgot to do. Marco, Dwayne, and Paul, right? Was that Paul? Paul's the other one? Doesn't matter. They were definitely not 18 or 19. They were in their 20s at that point because they did not look like they were in high school. Anyhow, so The Lost Boys, like I said, vampire movie set in a fake city of Santa Carla, California, which is known as the murder capital of the USA or of the world or something like that. A lot of missing kids and a lot of missing people in general. Turns out they're vampire food. And Michael falls instantly in love with a young lady named Star, played by Jamie Gertz, who I talked about earlier. She leads him down to the dark path where he runs into David and his crew, who then trick him into becoming a vampire. And then you find out that David was actually instructed by the master to engulf the family, both Michael and Sam, to attract their mother, Lucy, played by Diane Weist, because he wanted a mother for his boys, who his boys were the Lost Boys, which were the vampires. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode, everybody. That's all I gotta say. Watch the movie; it's amazing. Really good soundtrack. It's a fun movie. It's that's all I'm gonna really say. It's just a fun movie in general. Don't watch the sequels; they are fucking terrible. I think I've watched one of them or part of one of them, but maybe I watched a clip of them online. I don't remember, but they were not very good. The first one's amazing. You should watch it, and you should share it with your friends. Anyhow, that's it for this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, and like I always say at the end of these, let's be awesome.